Welcome back, everyone. Midday SuperTalk Mississippi in the Element Well Studios. And joining us now, John Sigman, General Manager of the Pearl River Valley Water Supply District. John, thanks for coming on.
Thank you.
Well, we just been keeping an eye on that Pearl River. I rode over it a couple of days ago there on Lakeland Drive and couldn't help but notice how dang high it was. Where do we stand right now?
Right now, the lake is about as full as it's ever been. We've held back enough water that now we have concerns about how full it is. We just this morning got it to turn to where it's not rising anymore, so that's a good sign. But we are releasing currently 55,000 cubic feet per second, and that will result in a river at the Highway 80 gauge of 35 feet. And the Weather Service makes these predictions. I don't, but they've got the best scientists and the best computers in the world working on it, and they're usually very accurate. So we hope that by increasing the flow right now, we won't have to increase it again through this event. And that's going to keep water below the magic 35, 5, 36, where it starts going in houses.
Oh, okay. All right, so when is that expected to occur, John?
That should happen within 24 hours of this time tomorrow.
Okay.
Should be at it this time tomorrow.
And does that also, those models, consider the possibility of more rain?
They do account for the forecast of the next 24 hours. And as you know, there could be more rain after that. So another reason for us to begin lowering the lake as fast as we can.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, so what about how this compares to prior situations? 79 and 83 come to mind. I think those were the highest, right?
Those were the two highest of record, and this won't compare to them. The 79 went to 43 feet, and the 83 went to 39 feet. This is shaping up to be the ninth biggest on record, but yet it doesn't matter what the record is if the water's getting in your house.
Oh, sure. Absolutely. And most recently, 2020.
2020 is more comparable to what we're facing now, and it'll be less than that, but it's going to be right there. And if you had water in your house or you had concerns about water in 2020, I would advise you to take your precautions now.
Okay. Is there anything that your organization has done or can do, say, since 2020 or in the last couple of years to try to prevent flooding as a result of the heavy rains?
We have continued to increase our efficiency of operation and modeling of the reservoir, but by and large, it's still the same geometry that we had then. It literally depends on the duration, intensity, and location of the rainfall.
Sure, makes sense. And so you mentioned 2020, and that's the one I most recently remember, and I know that got a lot of the Jackson area, the low-lying areas in Jackson, and even some of the areas, especially around the reservoir, the backwater area there, between the dam and the lake. Is that, I guess, the same areas that are, again, vulnerable here?
Yes, they are. Now, let's look back at 2020. When that started, we had the lake way down. The lake was down to 296 to help battle the giants of Venia, which, by the way, we beat. And so I had a couple of feet of storage to work with then that I don't have now. Okay.
Gotcha. I understand. So you just got less you can hold, which means you got to pour more out, and that hits us downstream.
Yeah, it does. And I talk to people. They call and have concerns, and I try to tell them, you need to be prepared. You need to make your plan, execute your plan, because the water will come.
Yeah. All right, what about further downriver? Obviously, the Jackson metro area is the one that, I guess since we live here, we think about the most, but the river, of course, continues on down South Mississippi, Southwest Mississippi.
Yes, we have concerns with Monticello, Columbia, Bogalusa. All of those river cities have situations where the reservoir eventually affects them. Not quite as much as they believe, but it does affect them. However, in this storm, a lot of the storm went south, and they were at flood stage before we began increasing discharges here.
Okay, so this just exacerbates that.
It just makes it worse.
Yeah. Well, what about any interaction your organization, John, has with the National Weather Service? Are you trying to anticipate events like this?
Yes.
And how far out in advance did they give you any kind of heads up on what we're experiencing right now?
It varies, but depending on the storm event. This one, I got a day's advance notice.
Gee, thanks.
And we work with the Weather Service. In fact, during high flow periods like this, we have a conference call each morning with the Weather Service, U.S. Geological Survey, Corps of Engineers, MEMA. Often the city of Jackson's in on those calls, and we coordinate what we're going to do. And I'll make a proposal of what I think we need to do, and everybody gets a chance to say, oh, that's going to be an adverse effect, or we think that's the thing to do. In the end, the Pearl River Valley Water Supply District makes the decisions.
Okay. And make the decisions as far as how much water to let out of the lake into the river?
Yes.
Specifically? You guys control that, right?
Yes.
And is there a board? Tell us how it's organized, the district itself.
The district is a state agency, and it is embodied in a statute. We're body politic and corporate. That means a lot to the lawyers.
Yep.
But we have a board of 14 members appointed by the governor, the supervisors, and some of the state agencies.
Okay. And so do you have meetings, John, to discuss exactly how to regulate the water flow? And is there a vote on that, or how does that work?
The board sets the broad policy.
Okay.
They leave it up to me to execute.
Yeah. And
I'm trained for that. I've got experience in that.
Okay.
And they will pretty much go with my judgment. Now, if I mess up big time, they'll find somebody else.
Understand.
But I advise the board every day of what we're going to do, and so far they say we understand. Go ahead. But there's no formal vote on setting the gates.
So it's sort of typical board governance where they maybe set the strategy, if you will, and agree to that, and then authorize you to take action that would support that strategy.
That is correct. And I oftentimes hear people, and you'll see it on Facebook this morning, those people are not accountable. They're not elected. Well, it's a republic. Our board members are appointed by officials who are elected by the people.
Right.
And so there is direct representation.
Yeah, that's right. So 14, you mentioned supervisors as well that are on the board.
Well, the supervisors appoint a member.
And so the supervisors from which counties?
The 5 member counties: Scott, Leake, Hines, Rankin, and Madison. And they each appoint one board member, and that has to be confirmed by their board of supervisors. So they make that appointment. The governor appoints 5 directly.
Okay.
And then 4 are appointed by state agencies like Wildlife, Fisheries, and Parks, Department of Health, et cetera.
They would have an interest in it, yeah.
And we get great expertise by that. We get people who are very well versed in wildlife management, or who are very well versed in public health, and it really is great.
Makes sense. So it sounds like a diverse group and a diverse brain trust, if you will, that are involved in the governance here.
It is. It's a lot of experience on that board, a lot of gray hair. Some of us don't have any hair left, but it's a experienced group of people.
Yeah, but at the end of the day, once that strategy is put in place, your job to act on that and to just run the whole deal in accordance with that.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
All right. So what'd you say? 55,000.
55,000 cubic feet per second. Now, that's a lot of water.
Yeah.
That's a lot of water. On a good day, a very big discharge at, say, Grenada Reservoir would be 5,000.
Wow.
This is 10 times that, and could go higher. I don't want to. I hope we don't, but we could go higher.
Well, is there an average? What's typical for Pearl River?
Average normal days 2,000 or 3,000.
Wow.
Minimum
55,000.
Minimum discharge is 247, and sometimes we're at that for months. And typically, August is a minimum discharge situation unless a hurricane's pushing through. And this storm acted like a hurricane, but it was no hurricane.
Right. In terms of the rainfall, it certainly does. Before we go, we got about a minute here. Is there anything you'd like to see in the way of infrastructure to just improve the entire district that maybe the legislature needs to authorize or some other body?
Oh, we've got plenty of needs. We need money for dredging. We need money for public facilities like recreational facilities and things like that. The primary purpose of the reservoir is water supply for the city of Jackson, and that's one reason I can't empty the reservoir to hold back floods is I got to have water for the city of Jackson.
I understand. So it's a balancing act, constant.
It's a tightrope.
I get it. John, thanks so much for coming in. Very informative, sir. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
John Sigman, General Manager, Pearl River Valley Water Supply District's been our guest on the Middays. We'll step aside and we'll call